I was one of the first Haitian to arrive here in 1994. So at the time, there were maybe a couple of other families that have been in town prior to my arrival, and some of other people that I know came in about the same time. So it really took us a long time before we started really seeing Haitians coming to town, uh, to really have this idea about forming a group, right? So between 1994 and 2008, that's how long it took with the arrival of some of the migration that we were seeing from folks moving from either Florida or New York to come and sort of test out Indiana because I have a lot of friends. And so as I was traveling to those different states to try to understand how those states were working, and because, you probably know that these are the big hubs where you have millions of Haitians living there, whether it's Florida or New York. So the name of Indiana was intriguing. Nobody wanted to come here. Nobody knew anything. And the first thing that people knew, it was very cold. So there was no desire or aspiration for anyone to move to Indiana. But a few of them that had visited, I think, through those lenses by, virtue of seeing where I lived. And, when I talked about job, how easy it was to move from one job to another, I think people started to realize that maybe there was an opportunity for them to move to this place. And at the core of it, for a lot of people who migrate from one place to another, having an environment where they can raise their family and earn a good living, or the cost of living would be relatively low, is really what Indiana offered. So by the year of 2005, 2006, we start seeing Haitians moving from New York, Florida, coming to town. And so it really started then that we then had, at the time, a small church, a small Haitian church. And this is a church where I participated in. I played a drum, so I was in church every Sunday. And church for Haitians is really atypical of churches. It's 3 hour long or 4 hour long because church is more than just faith. It's also where people come in to socialize, to really spend time with one another, and fraternize with one another. So out of this sort of, the church time that we spent together, emerged those conversation about perhaps putting a group together, that we would either call it, it's a not-for-profit, certainly, but we wanted to have an association because at the time we were speaking about how do we know that people were going to continue to come, how do we then put together, a government known entity so that when other people come in, they can recognize themselves through that entity. And that's the conversation we had at the time. So we moved that conversation very quickly to the reality of, registering the organization under the name of Haitian Association as a 501c3. And so we make it legal. And at that point, we then were known as a group that were focusing on, first of all, creating a sense of belonging for Haitians that were moving, whether they were moving from New York or Florida. Because at the time, nobody in Haiti they never heard of Indiana. So the thought of moving from Haiti directly here was completely non-existent. So we were really clearing, essentially putting the infrastructure together for folks we knew had some interest in moving to the Midwest for the reasons that we talked about, having a good job, raising their families. So the organization, from inception, was essentially to make sure that Haitian knew that there was a group of Haitian here. They can come in, they'll be welcome. And to the extent we could sort of guide them through how to get on with life here in general. Essentially, at the start of this, the needs that we're seeing today weren't really in the community. So we were really focusing on the culture, the food, making sure that the kids that were growing up in this environment would know and understand that their parents were from a different place. And the reason why they were speaking Creole at home wasn't because there were some aliens, but because they had behind, the language, the food, the smell of the food. There was a culture, there was a heritage, there were people from a different place. So, we were again trying to fulfill that sense for us to know that as Haitian, there's a place where we can come together to recognize that we are who we are, reminisce over the things that brought us here together, and to worship together, and to sort of spending time together to make sure that we were going to be strong and supporting one another. That's essentially what that was at the beginning. So there was no, rescue plan. There was no task force. There was no, health issues that we need to look after. These things have come way after. But as we were having those discussions and we realized that the numbers were growing, we then started really making sure that we built an infrastructure so that the organization could be recognized beyond just the group that was, the Haitian people. And in 2010 happened. And I don't know where you were living, but 2010 is probably one of the most dramatic time for Haitians when the earthquake happened. So the reaction for us, particularly in the state of Indiana, was incredible. The amount of goodwill that we've seen was tremendous. It was humbling for me because of all walks of life, people from not-for-profit organization, government, private sector, everyone wanted to support, to find out, first of all, were there Haitians here in town? Two, knowing how they're going to help Haiti, right? While things were happening at the federal level, but at the state level, we also saw sort of that interest in let's rally behind the Haitians and let's see how we can support them. So, and that's when it all shifted from from us in terms of the mission of the organization. So at that point, we were asking questions. How do we then get, make ourselves relevant enough to support those efforts that we saw were ongoing and that were going to the motherland? And so we work with a variety of different organizations, not-for-profit. Among them, there were medical missions that were going to Haiti at the time when things were extremely difficult. The airport was, essentially blocked. People couldn't travel. But we were involved with the hospitals and the doctors and the nurses that were putting missions, small mission of people, putting them in an airplane and flying them outside of Port-au-Prince so that they could go help. And that's when we really realized that the mission that we set out for ourselves all of a sudden was much larger than just this group that were there to just, fulfill the sense of belonging. After 2010, we get really engaged with a lot of community work, work with a lot of organizations, and so we too participated in some of those trips to Haiti to go help. And part of that, I had the tremendous opportunity to actually go to Haiti to help with a hospital that was being built under an organization called Partners in Health in Haiti, La Famille Santé, where we, with a collection of different organizations and, private companies, we, along with other engineers, took lots of instrument, hospital instrument, blood instrument, that we took them down to hospitals in Haiti, to their pharmacy, to their blood bank. We trained those people, we provided the equipment to them, and trained them to how to use them. So that happened in 2012, but again, that happened because of the relationship we were able to build with a lot of different organizations here in town. So we realized this wonderful and project with Haiti, right? So with this, we knew that the mission and the vision that we have had to be bigger than just, again, getting together, breaking bread, right? So we anticipated there were going to be a lot more Haitians. And so we started really, again, putting the structure of this organization together, a board together, an executive team together, so we then could serve the Haitian better. We were very involved as well in our culture because we wanted to, the thing that we think that's important is when you live outside of your own country, there is a predominant culture, right? And that's the one that our kids and, all Haitians are essentially living through. But there's also that sense that, you're a bit different. Personally for me, I've lived in my country for 20 some years. So I wanted to preserve some of that. And The way to do this was to, to put a group together. There was a Haitian dance group, and my daughter, who's today is in college, has first participated in our Flag Day event. She was 6 years old, and we have pictures of that. We talk about it, video of that. And it's such a wonderful thing to know that she'd gone through this, right? And today she's still dancing with that group. And, through program that we put together, namely the Haitian Flag Day. So it's a legacy that we built over time that we want that to continue to exist, because we don't think that those kids would have that sort of exposure to our culture the way they do have it today without the existence of us and the continuity to continue built over time what today we know to be an organization that existed for 15 years.